Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima. This isn't going to be the usual talking to the wall because frankly not that much actually happened this week. Mainly because it was the Christmas holiday week and you know, anyone expecting anything to happen at this point during the Christmas holiday week is pretty silly, I must say. There is also the idea that all the news that really was out there was people making their Game of the Year lists. And I figure while I'm not going to do any sort of like really traditional Game of the Year lists, I do have a Game of the Year, or rather a duology of a Game of the Year. With that said though, I am going to talk about a few other games that I did play this year that came out this year, nothing that came out in like 2017 or whatever. But there are a few games that came out this year that I do appreciate, and I'll happily talk about them as well. I'll just give you like a top 5 with no order for anything outside of my number 1. So there you go. I'll thank the patrons real quick, and as always, the links to support me are in the description. Alan, Billy, Blizz, Brett, Caleb, Chen, Christoph, David, Edia, Eric, Gary, Joey, the other Joey, Christopher, Matthew, Miguel, Mathaldu, Raymond, Rodrigo, Sack Chief, and Z. The footage in the background, I honestly have no idea what it's going to be at this point. I haven't actually recorded it yet. And I've got like 3 other videos to do today, so I might just have to take some footage from a video that I plan on putting out next week and sticking it in the background here. So one way or another, you'll know. I'll put it in the description or something. So let's get on to some of the games I roughly enjoyed this year. Really enjoyed, roughly. Why did I say roughly? So the first game that I could think of, I basically went backwards through the list of games that came out this year that I played and enjoyed, and I only came up with 4, and they're all on the PlayStation 4 for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that, but I actually played one of these on PC, but the rest are on PlayStation. So we'll start with Firewall 0 Hour on the PlayStation VR, because it is the smoothest implementation of virtual reality FPS so far. And it does a lot of things that I like. The game kind of plays like Siege, where it's 4 versus 4, and you have to either get through some firewalls or just kill off the other team. It's very easy to understand. And as you fight and level up, you unlock things like extra gadgets, and you unlock extra guns. So it has a little bit of Siege in there, a little bit of Call of Duty, but it's still pretty damn tactical considering how quickly you can actually die in this game, and you do have to revive your buddies if they go down, so that is a thing. I say it's the smoothest implementation of first-person shooters in VR that I've played, and this is true because let me try that again. I have 2 sets of VR headsets, actually. I have both a PlayStation VR and a Windows Mixed Reality. I did a video on a Windows Mixed Reality game very recently in the form of Galgun 2. But the thing with Firewall is that it also supports the PlayStation VR aim controller. So it's basically just a big plastic gun that you hold and aim and shoot with. And it is a very comfortable gun to hold and use, even with the analog sticks being like not even where the trigger is, but there's like one on the very back of the gun and there's one on the front part of it. It's really weird, but once you get used to it, it's actually extremely smooth. Moving around corners, keeping your gun out of the way so that the enemy team doesn't see it. Literally just holding the gun around the corner and blind firing, and using all of these little gadgets by pointing the gun at something and pressing the button is all incredibly natural. And it really helps the action stay nice and quick. Gunfights in this game are very quick if you can see each other. It will probably be a couple of seconds before at least one of you ends up dead, and it is great, and they are actually still patching this game. There's only one real problem with it though, and that's the round system, where basically you only get to play 1 round, and then it chucks you back out to the lobby to wait for longer than it would take to do a round in the first place. They still haven't fixed that, despite that being the #1 problem a lot of people had with it. But again, when you feel it, you get dropped in, you're holding the gun, and you're moving up slowly, you're taking cover behind walls, you're peeking around them and holding your gun out to make sure that there's no enemies there, or if there is, you can just literally just hold the gun out and just fire randomly, and that will actually help you out. And all the different little gadgets that you can put down gives it a great amount of strategy, and it definitely does seem like it has the best grip of how to do a lot of different first-person shooter-related things in virtual reality. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I just haven't had the time to pick it up recently, which has depressed me to no end, because I would love to give this game a lot more of a go. Maybe if they patch out the need to go back to the lobby every time there's one round, things would go a lot smoother. So Yakuza 6 apparently came out this year. I thought it came out last year, but yeah, apparently it came out this year. I have terrible time perception. But yes, Yakuza 6 is the end of the, well, not so much the end of the franchise, but the end of the story of Kazuma Kiryu. One of the best protagonists that video games has. That is not a joke, not even close to a joke. He is one of the best damn people to follow around in this industry. And that's my phone going off, unbelievable. And it's a damn shame that we're not going to get any more stories with him, at least judging by the way they've been talking about it. And the basic idea is the same as all the other Yakuza games. You are a magnet for trouble, and you end up falling into yet another ridiculous set of problems where your poor adopted daughter ends up getting hit by a car, and you spend a couple of years in jail to get over it, and by the time you get out, she's in hospital, he's got no idea what's going on, and of course he gets himself into massive amounts of trouble, and you have to go and figure all that shit out. It's a lot like Yakuza 3 in the respect of, you know, what game in the series is the most like, because most of the time you're dealing with a brand new set of characters and a brand new environment. You do go back to Kamurocho from time to time, but most of your time is spent in Onamichi, which is a new city with a bunch of people with a bunch of new problems. And it's actually a really nice place to be. It has some lovely little sites out on the shore and up the back near the baseball diamond and just at the top of the lifts. It's a nice place to go and explore, and of course, they completely redid the combat for this one, and there's a couple of things I don't like about it, mainly the fact that the throwing is ridiculously overpowered, but it's still great fun because since everybody is affected by physics, it's infinitely more satisfying than it used to be to hit a guy and watch him crumple like a ragdoll. It is as satisfying as ever, if not more so, beating the crap out of people with this game's combat system, and unfortunately, there's no such typical heat actions anymore, but they did bring that back for the Kiwami 2 remake, so that's nice. But the combat is still a lot of fun. There's not as many minigames around as there used to be, but there's still a fair amount of them, including the clan creator, which I actually really liked. I just wish you could do more of it in one shot, since the progress for it is actually locked down to where you are in the story, but there are a lot of different things you can do, and it all feeds back into each other because it all costs money and XP, which you earn by doing pretty much everything. The side stories are always good fun, and they go all the way back to making callbacks from Yakuza 0, and the actual plot is awesome because all the characters are really likable and have a lot of time to really flesh out their personalities, and getting in Takeshi Kitano to play the boss of the minor Yakuza family that you end up as part of was an absolutely brilliant idea. He does not get wasted. His talents are very well expressed, and it helps me understand why people actually like him as a serious actor, because boy, he is good at it. It is probably my favorite Yakuza game story out of all of them for multiple different reasons, and again, I enjoyed it immensely because of it feels like an appropriate end to the Kiryu saga. Thankfully, I still got a fair bit of Kiryu story to do. I haven't actually played Dead Souls yet. I haven't finished Zero. That's my Steam thing going on. Let me just mute my computer. Why are all the sounds coming through now? But yeah, I haven't finished Zero, and I've still got the remakes of 1 and 2 to do, so, and hopefully they'll bring out Ishin in the future, because they keep putting that on the damn surveys, but they still won't announce it. God damn it, I want that game so badly. But yeah, 6 is probably my favorite in the series due to its fantastic story with a fair few tearjerkers. Its combat system getting a huge overhaul, and one that I can really appreciate despite its flaws. I'm really looking forward to playing Kiwami 2, where they really kick that into high gear. And just its general atmosphere and tone is a lot... I don't want to say a lot better, but it's different, and I really like the way they did it because I actually really liked Yakuza 3. So seeing them go back for the same sort of thing with Yakuza 6, only, you know, slight changes here and there, makes it really, really good. I really do appreciate that they put in all the effort, and, well, frankly, I wouldn't tell you to go out and buy it. I'd tell you to go get 0, 1, and 2. Hopefully 3, 4, and 5 come out on PS4 sometime within the next few months. And then we can play through the entire saga again, although I'm thinking we're going to have to wait until Dead Soul shows up on emulators before we can really give that one a shot. So 428 came out this year as well, and I did do a rant on it recently, but I'll just quickly go back over what the deal is. It's a visual novel, and the idea is that you follow the exploits of 5 different characters who all end up intertwined in this big plot to, you know, in this big plot to get control of a super virus, and there is a lot of different ways you can fail. And since all the characters intertwine with each other, making a decision on one character's timeline will actually screw over characters in another if you make the wrong decision. And there are tons of ways that this can go down, and it's actually a really neat little thing. And there are tons of unique endings to go find, even a few extra Easter eggs to go find. And the main characters that you follow around, everything from the reserved viral researcher to the person in the catsuit to the tough but fair bloody environmentalist, previously a gang member. All the characters are actually really interesting, and they're all presented in a really unique way that's kind of like FMV, where they use real characters, but they don't like use actual FMV like animated shots. They use still camera shots of real characters, and it really helps to convey the personality and energy behind the characters in the story, and it all works really well and remains entertaining all the way through. And there's a ton of bonus content afterwards as well. I didn't even come close to finishing all of it because there is a ton of extra stuff going on in this one that is actually really nice to see. I mean, usually you wouldn't be able to convince people to go through a second run through, but this game has so much extra crap in it that you will definitely need an extra run to go and see it all again. So I definitely do like 428 Shibuya Scramble, if you don't know the full title of it. I got it when it came out, and I appreciated that, and it has been on sale a few times, and it is absolutely 100% worth the sale price. So if you see it on sale again, which you probably will be able to see it on sale on Steam tomorrow, since the Steam Winter Sale is still going on, but there you go. I fully recommend 428. It is a great time, and you will have plenty of hours to go through and enjoy it. So this is the normie pick, mainly because the normie pick is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of expected at this point, but to be fair, I've been a huge Spider-Man fan since I was a kid. Spider-Man's been my favorite superhero since the 2001 Raimi movie came out, and even like without that, like all the other games that I've played and all that, he's still my favorite superhero, being the wisecracking teenager that is not invincible and definitely a lot more relatable than a lot of other superheroes. So when it was announced that Spider-Man was being turned into a game by via Insomniac, who were known for making games like Ratchet & Clank and Spyro the Dragon, I was like, this studio probably could not be more perfect to do a Spider-Man game. And I love it, and I'm going to try and contain my excitement for as long as possible. And, well, they went above and beyond. The swinging is fantastic. The city looks wonderful. The combat, while being a clone of Arkham, I will admit that it's a clone of Arkham, at the same time, it introduces a lot of neat little gimmicks and a few sets of moves and some neat gadgets that really do have that Spider-Man touch to them. So it doesn't feel like an outright clone of Arkham despite being one, which is really nice. So that's a nice thing. I appreciate that. And the story is, well, I will admit it's pretty basic, and they were trying to fit as many villains in there as possible, but at the same time, I still enjoyed where the story went. There were a couple of things I definitely wasn't expecting them to do, and I still need to go through and play all the DLC, because they added a bunch of extra stuff to the game afterwards that I bought and didn't actually play. But there are a lot of other minor things to like about it as well, like all the mini challenges they have you do, although some of them can be absolute bums in terms of actually getting them done with like the gold medal, and the extra crimes that they can let you go do, which lets you play around with your powers a little bit. I appreciate them a lot as well. There's a lot of different weird little accessibility features, like being able to do things like skip puzzles if you really need to, and all of that stuff. I appreciate all of that as well. And yeah, it's the best Spider-Man game that there pretty much has ever been. And that is pretty much all there is to say about it. It's better than the Spider-Man games on PS1. It's better than Spider-Man 2 on the GameCube and PS2 and Xbox, although I will admit it's not that far above Spider-Man 2, but it still does really, really, really well for itself. And for most people looking at it and saying, oh, I'm not that interested, well, basically, if you like Spider-Man at all, like if you saw like Spider-Man Homecoming, for example, and you thought, oh, that was a good movie, or if you saw the original Sam Raimi movies, or if you've played any other Spider-Man game and you thought to yourself, what if this guy was done the best humanly possible, or at the very least, the best that has ever been done before? Spider-Man will fill that niche, and I appreciate it quite heavily for that. I'm really looking forward to seeing if they come out with a sequel, because their universe has a lot of neat little fleshed out stuff going on, and I do appreciate that they went their own direction with the universe, making it their own standalone thing with its own events and consequences and stuff like that. So, yeah, fully recommended. So there's the 4. Now we get to go on to talk about my game of the year. And, well, I'm going to be perfectly honest, it's basically what killed whatever little focus I had left on the Vita, if I am being 100% honest, because this game admittedly came out of nowhere. I didn't even know I was getting review code for it until it showed up in my inbox one day, and I'm like, oh, that's strange, I've never heard of this game before. Let's go and have a look at... It's the top rated game on the Visual Novel database? Seriously? And I'm looking at it going, okay, let's give it a go, let's give it a shot. It looks weird as hell, and it looks like absolute trash, but let's give it a shot. And so, I downloaded it, and I gave it a shot, and I loved it to death. So, in case you haven't guessed already, my game of the year, or rather, my duology of the year, since they came out pretty much at exactly the same time, and I played through them at exactly the same time, so it was more or less one big game for me, was Muv-Luv and Muv-Luv Alternative. I recently rebought Muv-Luv and Muv-Luv Alternative. They cost me about $65 all up on the Steam sale, and I still feel bad about buying them on Steam sale, but I literally only just got the money that I could afford to spare on getting them again, because I felt so guilty about not actually having paid for these two games after I had played through them on the Vita. So I went and bought them because the games are just that good. They are just flat on the ground, no differences whatsoever from your traditional visual novel. And considering that I usually like my gameplay, that's a real surprise even for me. But they are just flat on the ground, my favorite VNs, and definitely in my top 5 games of all time, despite having next to actually absolutely no traditional gameplay whatsoever. And I'm kind of amazed by that, because the 100 or so hour journey it will take, probably closer to 120 now that I think about it, but the 120 hour journey that it takes to get through Muv-Luv and Muv-Luv Alternative is filled with bombastic moments, fantastic characters, some great twists and turns, tons of scientific babblery that makes the universe feel more real than it actually is, which is of course not real, and just the general overall quality of the storytelling all the way through is magnificent. It is incredibly well done, both in the actual story and the translation. P-Cube have done a fantastic job at well, I don't want to say accurately because I never played the original Japanese version, but at the same time, it feels like they hit the bullseye with the translation and localization of this game, and it is just so good. Like, it is honestly so damn good. If I were to do another one of those, you know, top 100 Vita games, the only real addition from this year would be Muv-Luv and Muv-Luv Alternative, and they would be at the beginning of the video. I would just have everything else in alphabetical order, and that would just be at the beginning of it, because it is just so good. It does a fantastic job at going from trashy but actually kind of hilarious rom-com to in-depth sci-fi body horror bullshit to incredibly in-depth character studies and more epic sci-fi ridiculousness. And it hits everything it tries to shoot dead on the mark. I don't want to say too much about it because I feel like the amount of spoilers that I did give out back in the videos I did on this series was a bit much, but I love them to death. I love every character to death. I love the plot to death. I love the way they did the graphics and the audio, because immediately after I was done, I started feeling this. Immediately after I finished Alternative, I was feeling nostalgic for the original game, despite the fact that I played them both right next to each other in the space of a week. Actually, it probably took a week and a half, but still, everything about it is fantastic, and I am. Well, let me put it this way. Alongside that $60 Muv-Luv purchase, I have gone and browsed the top 100 VNDB games, and I bought about 15 of them on the Steam sale. So, I've got a lot more to do in the terms of the visual novel side of things. But, frankly, when you get bowled off your feet as hard as you do with a game like Muv-Luv Alternative, you don't ignore the rest of that genre. You stick it out. You look up everything, you get everything, and you find the time to get back around to everything you just spent tons of money on. With that said, though, they're going to have to wait until after I replay Muv-Luv again, because I absolutely need to at this point. And they are bringing out the epilogue for it, which takes place after Alternative and is like another 20-hour Muv-Luv of its own, sometime early next year, and I want to be ready for when that comes out. So, yeah. So, those are my top 5 games for the year, except for Muv-Luv being at the very top. They were in no particular order. I heavily recommend all 5. There are probably a bunch of games that I played this year that are actually older than this year, and therefore probably should have deserved attention. Like, I only got my PlayStation VR, and therefore VR in general, this year, so there'd be a bunch of games I would willingly put on here if they actually came out this year. So, yeah, just FYI, I might be doing VR videos a fair bit more from now on, just to try and catch up on what I've been playing on VR recently. But yeah, those are just 5 games in general that I really enjoyed this year, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to me sing around and ranting about them for 20-something minutes, because I've honestly got nothing else to put out for talking to the wall this week. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to that, and you know the drill. If you liked it, subscribe, comment, like, share, and I will see you all next week, I assume, because we're about to hit 2019, and God knows what's going to happen in 2019.